Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yev Maloff. I'm the General Manager of Finance, IT, and Procurement for the Regional District of Central Kootenay. And we're here this evening to present the 2026 to 2030 financial plan for the City of Nelson, Area E, and Area F for the Regional District provided services. So we've got a few local directors and such here this evening, if they want to introduce themselves.
Tom Newell, Electoral Area Director for Area F.
Josh Fink, alternate for Area E.
Jesse Woodard, Nelson City Council.
Okay, thank you. And we've got a couple staff online. Oh, sorry, we've got a director online as well, Cheryl.
Thank you. Hi, Cheryl Graham, Area E Director, and I'm also sick, so I'm going to keep my camera off today. Sorry.
Okay, and we've got a couple staff members online who'll be doing part of the presentation. Tricia, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Yev. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tricia Davison. I'm the General Manager of Community Services.
Hi, and good evening. I'm Craig Stanley. I'm the Regional Manager of Operations and Asset Management for Community Services.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to actually turn our video off as well as we go through the presentation, but I'll leave the mic on. Okay, so the agenda for this evening, we've got another, Keith has popped in. Keith, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm just at the LGLA in Richmond, popping in. I'm the Regional Director for Central Kootenay, here to hear what the public thinks about our budget deliberations this year.
Okay, thank you, Director Page. So the agenda for this evening, quick discussion about what regional district model and the services we deliver, some discussion about property assessments, 2026 overall outlook, service by service discussion, and then some pie charts for showing the estimated taxation by area. So a reminder that this current financial plan is a draft that was produced on February 26th. And so late this afternoon, we actually produced another draft. So that's not incorporated in this budget, but that draft will be the one that's going to the board next week for adoption. But even with that one, there's potential for other changes to happen between now and adoption, either through director or board level motions next week. So this draft isn't final, and neither is the draft that's going to be presented next week. So we had about the budget planning and review process. So it started back last October with the board going through various core services, including general administration, 911, emergency planning, asset management. We've had, I'm going to say, several dozen committee and commission meetings since then to discuss parks, recreation, some utilities, resource recovery, and transit. We've got 3 local service committees in the RD where the municipalities and surrounding areas discuss shared services. So in Creston, Slocan, Silverton, New Denver, and Castle area, services including libraries, museum, airports, transit, and other contribution services, and then as well as other discussion with directors. So this process culminates next week with at the March 19th board meeting, where the budget will be adopted and then submitted to the ministry by the final budget submitted to the ministry by March 31st. So new this year is we have a public engagement site. So that's been up about 3 weeks now. So that's a site that has got all the links to all the meetings, all the presentations, other budget documents, including the budget itself, as well as a place to submit questions. So the regional district is one of 27 in BC, has 11 electoral areas, A through K. 9-member municipalities, provides 186 services stemming from parks and rec to water. Each service stands on its own, so each service has its own basically budget and accounting, its own taxation, and surpluses from one service can't be used to offset deficits in another. And that model is largely driven by each service also has, for the most part, its own set of taxpayers depending where it's located. So a water service in Creston obviously has a different set of ratepayers than one in Area K. So just a small list of some of the provincial regulations impacting the regional district. The two main ones are Local Government Act and Community Charter, which regulate local government in British Columbia. Besides these, there's a number of other regulations that impact the regional district, including the public sector accounting standards, which are responsible for regulating our financial reporting. So we'll jump over to how property taxes are calculated. So through this process, a budget is set for each service, which determines the tax requisition amount. And then separate from that, the provincial government through the BC assessment determines property assessment values. Those are the ones that are available in early January. So if you take the total tax amount divided by the property assessment values for that service, then you get a tax rate per thousand for each service. So here's one of the big differences between a regional district and a municipality. In a regional district, each service, you basically end up with a tax rate specific to that service, versus a municipality will have what they sometimes call a mill rate, which is the average used for all taxpayers across the municipality. So for a regional district, then if you take that tax rate multiplied by the value of each individual property, it'll give you the property tax for each individual property for each service. And I'll show a little bit what that looks like in a bit. So this bar chart here shows the annual assessment change percentage to 2026. The blue bars are year over year, so 1 year change, and the 10-year average is the orange. So the things at the bottom aren't highlighted, but Nelson's right in the middle there with a just under a 3% increase. And area F is, well, near the far left at about a 3.5%, and area E just over 1%. If you've been following along what's been happening with property values, this is probably the smallest overall average increase change, probably going back five or 6 years, but still quite a spread in over the 1 year between area I and J, so about a 9% difference between the lowest and the highest. So the financial plan is roughly a 300-page document that's available online and on the engagement site. It's made up of 3 major components. Taxation details by area on the left. On the upper right is the assessment taxation summary that compares all the areas and municipalities for assessment and taxation change. And behind that are the 180 individual service statements for the services that list out the revenue and expense to the account level for each service spanning the 5-year period. So we'll jump into one of the taxation detail pages for, in this case, area E. So as we can see, we have, I'm going to say close to 30 services at the top and about 7 on the bottom. So the difference is the ones on the top above the subtotal are the services that everybody participates in area E. So all taxpayers in area E pay into all of these services. And on the bottom, it's dependent on your address or where you live. So some people or some residents get fire protection through area E Blewett, service S133. and others through Balfour Harrop or the Beasley Blewett service. So that really depends where you live. So this page shows the taxation changes from 24 through 36, as well as the assessment changes. And you can see the total requisition for that area, as well as the individual rate for each service, both shared across all the areas and the defined down below. So on this page, for the services on the top part, the percentage change year over year for Area E is just under 1%. So jumping over to Area F, very similar, a few differences. Some of the fire protection services are different. There's a few services that are only Area F, including S199, the library contribution services. But for the most part, Area E and F share the same set of shared services on the top part of this table. And last but not least is the City of Nelson. So these are the services that are provided through the regional district for City of Nelson taxpayers. The two of note, most of note here, are refuse disposal or resource recovery service S187, and the Nelson District Community Recreation Facility, which is 228, make up between those two about 70% of the taxation for regional district services provided by the regional district. And this percentage change is for City of Nelson's about 6.5% for 2026. So this is an example of a rural property tax bill from Area F from a few years ago. And so as you see, this property tax bill has a number of different taxes on it, not just regional district, and the taxation is done by the provincial government. So you've got school, provincial rural taxes, police tax, hospital tax, and a few other taxes. The regional district taxes are circled in red there. The one with the largest dollar amount is the services that everybody in that area participates in, so the ones that were above the subtotals, and then the individual services property taxpayers pay into are listed individually, and in this case, this property owner pays into the Beasley Blewett Fire protection area for Area F. So next we have the taxation summary by area municipality. So on the far left, it shows the different assessment changes year over year. We can see again the average is just under 3. E with about a 2% increase, F with 4, City of Nelson just under 3. And then on the far right are the net taxation changes. So for Area E, this includes all the shared services as well as defined services. So about just under 2% increase. Area F 4.6, and City of Nelson just under or just about 6%. So overall average on this for the regional district as a whole, net property tax increase of 5.1. And so this is based on the February 26 budget. The budget that will be coming out tomorrow will actually be lower than this, about a 4.8% increase average across the regional district. So these numbers, most of them will go down slightly. So again, the average projected increase of 5.1, but as of today, it's down to about 4.8. The $48 million in total tax requisition is for this year is actually $1.6 million lower than we planned for this year during last year's budget period. CPI, Consumer Price Index increase in staff salaries, director stipends 2.5%. Decreasing interest rates are reducing interest charges, which is great, but it's also reducing investment income. And then, as many people are aware, the new provincial budget will have an impact on costs, including addition of PSD on some services. some of these additions are delayed or changes are delayed later in the year. So this budget does not incorporate any of the budget changes. So we're having a look at that and seeing what impacts it have, but it appears it'll be minimal for this year, but greater for 27. So a few other challenges, opportunities, political climate, conflicts, foreign trade, including tariffs, counter tariffs, increasing procurement costs, including energy supply costs, and potential supply chain issues. So degree of uncertainty, potentially slowing economic activity, or even a wider downturn could lead to lower building permit, waste disposal, and recreation fee revenue. Fluctuating Canadian dollar causes some impacts as well. And then the other opportunities in artificial intelligence. This technology is evolving quickly, so use of the regional district has increased, although fairly limited. We have sent out AI use guidelines to our employees and staff, and a reminder to not only them, everyone to be mindful of accuracy and privacy concerns when using AI tools. So I'll just go through four graphs for these are for the regional district as a whole. So this is all areas, all municipalities, just to show where the taxation funds go and where money is spent. So, or funds are spent. So for 2026, major rec facilities. So these are the rec centers in Nelson, Castlegar, and Preston. Use up about 28% of the tax requisition. If you add in other community services, parks, museums, and library, so basically rec, parks and culture, we're almost 40% of the taxation revenue goes towards basically what we call community services. Fire and rescue is next at 21, and add emergency management, so about 23% for emergency and fire services. Resource recovery, which is basically waste management, is 14%, and then next is transit at 6%. So this is a waterfall graph showing breaking out the taxation increase from 25 to 26. So on the far right, the $2.7 million is the total increase, and the blue bars are services that have increased taxation, and the amount is shown there. And then the orange ones is where it's decreased. So the highest increase is through the major rec facilities. In total dollars is $662,000, followed by fire and rescue, transit, and then general admin, which I'll talk about in a bit, and then resource recovery. And next bar is where the non-capital expenditures are going. So 30% to wages, services. So this is contracted services, including repairs, maintenance, accounting, legal, etc. 18%. Contributions to reserve for future capital expenditures, 13. Debt servicing, 8. Grants, 7. And then some smaller items. And then the change in non-capital expense from 25 to 26 of $3.9 million. About 90% of that is an increase in reserve contributions to fund asset management, future capital repair and replacement, followed by wages, maintenance, and miscellaneous. Okay, so next we'll jump into the individual services. Does anybody have any questions so far? Everybody's good? Okay, no questions online?
Back 2 slides.
Okay, we'll go back 2 slides.
Go forward.
Okay,
The first waterfall, right?
the first waterfall, okay.
So the total increase is 2.7.
Yeah.
So it was projected to be 3.5 and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, 1.6, so 4.5 or 4.4.
Was projected and then you.
Yeah, so,
And then $1.6 million was reduced.
Right.
From that projection,
yes,
leading to this.
leading to this, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll start with S100, which is general administration, which is region-wide, all municipalities and rural areas. So it includes corporate admin, finance, IT, human resources, CEO, municipal directors, seeing a 22% taxation increase this year. The bulk of that increase is driven by $263,000 less prior year surplus carried forward. So we had a larger surplus going into 25 versus 26. So any surplus or deficit in the service is carried forward and stays in that service. If there's a surplus, it could be used to reduce taxation or go into reserves. If there's a deficit, it basically needs to be funded and paid back. The other major item is about $130,000 related to increased costs for accounting software. $70,000 is sort of the ongoing increase, and $60,000 is a one-time migration fee. Basically, a couple of years ago, our accounting software vendor informed us they were no longer supporting our version, and to move to the new version, which was on the cloud, required a significant cost to move, and as well as basically a doubling of fees for their cloud version. So some ongoing issues, housing availability still impede recruitment efforts. And then we've got 3 sort of ongoing IT projects that are going on at the regional district. Oh, went the wrong way. Next is rural admin, service S101. So this is just areas E and F in today's presentation. And so 22% taxation decrease. That's primarily driven by some interest income adjustments, as well as regional fire moving out of this service. So I'll talk about that in a bit. So this service now mainly includes bylaw enforcement, which includes noise, animal control, unsightly nuisance properties, etc. Bylaws vary by area, so not every rural area has all of those bylaws. The bylaw and building manager is shared between S101 and S103, so that reduces taxation in both services. Some updating of bylaws going on this year, as well as a new dog control service for 4 areas. Rural directors, a portion of their stipends and travel are in the service. And the other big change to this service is, up till last year, it contained all the costs for our regional fire departments, the regional chief, deputy chiefs, regional training costs, and regional admin support. So that's been moved to its own allocation service, A107. So those costs are more, it's more transparent, more easily visible what that the regional fire is costing. And as part of that move, some of the general admin and IT costs have gone to A107 when we used to stay in this service, so that's reduced some of the taxation. So in previous years, when regional fire was in the service, most of those regional costs were allocated out to the individual fire halls. And so now those regional fire costs are allocated out to the fire halls from the service A107 instead of 101. GIS service S102 provides location intelligence mapping through both internal and public web mapping tools. Services include, but not limited to, landfill surveys, addressing 911 data, fire services, emergency management support, and evacuation mapping. So the map on the right is an evacuation map from the Argenta Duncan Lake area from 2 summers ago, when wildland fires were going through that area. So GIS seeing a 25% taxation increase, driven by required upgrades to Esri systems, which is the GIS software, some replacement of some hardware. This service also does a lot of work on the transition to NG 911, which is new generation 911, which is a digital version of 911, which will in the future work better with mobile devices, versus analog, and $32,000 increase due to a correction from an undercharge from last year. The other thing to note for this service, for this meeting in particular, is the city of Nelson has given notice that they'll be moving to their own GIS service. So that we don't know the exact date for that yet, but it'll be in the next year or two. So area E and F now, building inspection. The city of Nelson has its own area E and F, share the building inspection service provided from the regional district. And so it's seeing a 16% taxation decrease this year. Permit revenue was much stronger than expected last year. We forecast 903. It came in at 998, just under $1 million. So this service is going to be working on modernizing its bylaw, continuing archiving of files, some new software to help plan checkers, and replacement of 2 of end-of-life building inspection vehicles to be funded from reserves. Next is planning and land use service S104. So again, just E and F. So planning department responsible for administration, zoning, land use, and development applications, long-term community plans, administrating zoning bylaw standards and policies. It's seeing basically an inflationary increase this year of 3%. This service makes ongoing use of provincial funding and grants to address various housing regulation and sub-regional planning. And there's 3 initiatives there slated for update this year. Next is S187, which is Central Resource Recovery. So the regional district is divided up into 3 resource recovery subregions: East, Central, and West. So Central starts down in Salmo, comes up through Nelson, and goes up to Castle Area D on the north end. So this includes our transfer stations, recycling depots, organics composting facilities, and as well as transportation of materials. Central does not currently have an active landfill. Central's waste is trucked to the Udishenia landfill, which is in the west subregion, and Central pays West for tipping fees for use of that landfill. So this service is seeing a 3% taxation and 6.4% tipping fee increase. Number of projects, including purchase of compacting trailer, work on Groman Recycling Depot, or planning for it, as well as a hauling building, reconstruction of Marblehead Transfer Station, work on legacy landfills, which a lot of these landfills actually predated the regional district. So regional districts are still responsible for their closure plans. Some assessment and piloting of some septic management options, organics regulation phase-in, as well as organics diversion initiatives. The 2 pictures on the right, the upper right one is the organics facility at the just outside Salmo, which processes organics for the central region as well as part of the west. And then the lower right picture is an excavator working on covering up a cell at a landfill that is full, so covered with a membrane and then with soil. So planning and land use service. Oh, that one is doubled up, isn't it? Or I went the wrong way. How about that? Okay, regional parks, and for this I will pass it on to Craig.
Thanks, Jeff. So for those that don't know, the regional parks in Service S or 202 is shared with Nelson, Salmo, E, F, and G. And inside of that service is a proposed taxation increase of 3.1%. As Yev pointed out, CPI is approximately 2.5, so there's a slight increase for other projects on the go. So Cottonwood Lake will be completing an accessible trail loop that was started a couple of years ago. We did a significant amount of work there in 2023 and 2024, and we're completing that round the lake accessible loop. At Rosebud Lake, which is down south of Salmo, we're continuing work on the dam safety plan. We're working with the provincial dam safety officer on compliance work, so that's a big scope of work for that area. At Tagum Beach, we have an ongoing development project related to initially related to a parking project where we were looking at enhancing the parking sites, and now that's evolved into a conceptual plan for all other amenities at the park. And so that is still in the planning phase. We're looking at environmental and archaeological assessments, as well as First Nations engagement, before we go back to the community for engagement on the options. Pulpit Rock access, a real minor note there that we have some trail realignment with the neighboring property. So we're doing a bit of that. We've started that with the really mild winter we've had, and we're going to continue that as soon as we can get back at it with the weather. And on the Great Northern Trail from Nelson south, we're looking at the development of a management plan. So that's an ongoing project there. Next slide, please, yeah. Also, region-wide in the RDCK, we're doing a parks, trails, and water access strategy. So we've engaged a consultant who've been working on this since 2024, and this strategy will define priorities, policies, and direction for regional and community park services. So out of that study, and that will be recommendations for how we could operate our parks regionally going forward, and that report should be coming to the board sometime in the late spring. Next slide, please, Yev. In recreation and service S226 at the Nelson District Community Complex, including we operate the Civic Arena in a management contract with the City of Nelson. The proposed taxation increase is 3.5%, CPI being 2.5%, and as Yev pointed out, with the collective bargaining, some of the union members or all of the union members receive a 3.4% increase, so that's is an indication of why the taxation increase is a little bit higher than CPI, but also because we're doing significant capital work, including the refrigeration plant upgrades. You'll see that on the slide for $1,050,000, and then we're also replacing the dehumidifier, which sits outside the arena, for $400,000. And we are also looking at planning for major pool work. So there's some mechanical work on the plumbing and the piping, and then we're looking at replacing some underwater lights in the pool. So there's $200,000 allocated for that. And then parking lot paving at $75,000 is going to be a regular cycle of patch and repair annually for several years to make sure that we can keep that asset up to proper grade, given that it's going on 20 years now. Next slide, please. Yep. And also just general repairs and maintenance. The main pool air handler that sits on the roof of the pool that provides heating and cooling and air movement for the pool air does have the main heating coil has to be repaired. So that's a $35,000 item, and that's actually going to cause a pool shutdown later in the month at the end of March, required to replace that coil. So that'll be coming out to the community as a notification that there will be a disruption in service to do that work. And then we're also spending $20,000 to procure some new fitness equipment and part of an annual renewal of fitness equipment for the fitness center. Next slide, please, Yev. And sorry, before I turn it over to Tricia, I also wanted to point out that inside of Service S226 and the Castlegar complex and the Crescent complex, we're also spending $60,000 at each of those to do a deep dive into facility condition assessment so that we can have a better look at required capital investment for our asset management plan. I'll turn it over to Tricia.
Great, thanks, Greg.
Oh, we've got a question from Director Newell.
Hey, Craig.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. Hey, what is the public demand, desire for more access to water? Are you getting any feedback from that in your department?
Tom, do you mean in the parks and trails and water access strategy? Is that what we're talking about? Access to water or access to the pool?
No, I mean parks.
So Tom, inside of that report from the consultants, that will there will be some data that indicate, and certainly the master plans that we've done, the most recent in Creston indicates that water access in the Creston Valley and on the east shore of Kootenay Lake, it is a desired outcome of that, and I believe that would hold for region wide, that people do want access to the rivers, the lakes, and other shore areas for recreation.
Thank you. So that could be a future thing ongoing thing we'll be looking at.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks, Craig. So I have the next two slides, I believe. So the first one we wanted to focus on was the recreation, financial access, and inclusion work that the Community Services Department has been doing, in particular over about the last almost 18 months now. So in January of 2025, this program underwent a significant overhaul, and then at the end of May was officially launched in its fullness once the policy was adopted. The policy itself has 4 components. The one that I'm focusing, or there's 2 components that I'm focusing on in this particular slide. One is the Leisure Access Program itself, which provides financial aid to those in financial need to be able to access recreation services to help ensure barrier-free participation to recreation amenities and programs. The other one is a low-cost recreation program where we try to create regular opportunities, and right now they're approximately once a month, where anyone in the community could come to the facility at varying times that we program and promote for $2. And if you happen to also be a Leisure Access member, those services are then free for you to participate. So those the low-cost recreation services have been very well received and are continuing to grow. We continue to evaluate those services to make sure that we are providing them at varying opportunities to try to reach as many people within different demographics as possible. The Leisure Access Program, so the one that provides financial subsidy opportunities for people, the statistics you see in the slide are district-wide. So right now, as of, I think this was actually as of late February, we have 708 people actively utilizing the Leisure Access Program in the district. Part of the way this program works is when you apply to the program, you're given an amount of subsidy to be able to put towards different services. So in the first little green box there that says for adults, the total amount of subsidy allocated currently is just over $82,000. Where right below that, you can see of that $82,000, $54,000 and change has been utilized towards different services. So that could be for drop-in admissions, it could go towards memberships, it could go towards any other registered program or fitness class. The program is also open to youth, and so you can see that on the youth side, there's $34,000 roughly allocated to youth, and where we're seeing a total utilization of 11,168 to date. What's interesting about the youth side is it's probably the one area we're really trying to promote and make sure people are aware of the program. This program, when it was historically only available for drop-in admissions and memberships, we are starting to see a more significant increase on the utilization for things like summer camps or swimming lessons or other services that allow youth to be able to participate in, whether it's a life skill or potentially even some kind of like minor employment opportunities like babysitting courses or lifeguarding opportunities. So there's a lot of good uptake on this. This program is also regularly evaluated because it went under such a significant change. And so the next major report on this will go to the All-Rec Committee coming up here in April. So yeah, you can go to the next slide.
We have a question.
Just curious, do you record where the people are from that are being subsidized?
So I was just about to say through the chair. There's no chair for this meeting. My apologies. So when people come to the program, the ones where they're registered or purchasing a membership automatically connect to someone's account. So then through the account process, you would actually see like that collects information about their residents. When they apply to the Leisure Access Program, so if you can imagine that's it's slightly separate, but still collected through our recreation software system, that information also tells us where people are from. So in our reports that we provide, Largely, the reports have gone to the All Rec Committee, as opposed to like individual commissions or committees, just because it is a regional program. We do break it out as to where people are from a general area. So it might be X number of people are coming from Nelson and area, or X number of people are coming from Castlegar and area.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yev, you can go to the next slide, please. So in this slide, we just wanted to break out some of the information that has typically been of interest around usage of the facility. So on the orange and blue graphs you see on the left, it's kind of comparing the information from visits to the Nelson and District Community Complex in 2025 compared to 2024. So you can see that in both memberships and in general admission, we are continuing to see an increase in both general admissions and memberships. And the building, as anybody knows, is extremely busy, very well utilized, and certainly well supported by all kinds of people of all ages and demographics coming to that facility. So that is very nice to see. We're just continuing to monitor both making sure the services are meeting people's needs, but also the busyness of the facility. We're trying to sort of make sure that that doesn't start to impact people's experience over time. So we're just watching that to see how that unfolds. In 2025, when it comes to a few other statistics that may be of interest, for swimming lessons, we had 824 different participants in take up swimming lessons to some degree over 2025 or 2025. For fitness classes, we've seen over 10,090 people participate, and for summer camps, 546 people. So again, we're pleased to be able to report how well received the services continue within the district, and we'll look forward to hoping to see that success continue in 2026. And Yev, I think I can turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tricia. So we will jump over to water utilities, starting with 255 Balfour, 5% parcel increase, 6% metered consumption base rate charge increase. So $300,000 of water line work completed last year, and $112,000 of secondary water source development plan for 26. Service 258 Grandview, 0% parcel tax, 11% consumption rate increase. So depletion reserves, increased operations have forced an increase in rates. Area F, Duhamel Creek, or Duhamel, 248, 10% parcel tax increase, 5% user fee. So last year, well pump replacement was completed as well as meter installation. And this year's well assessment and last year's secondary source feasibility study was completed. For 257 Woodland Heights, 0% parcel, 2% user fee increase. High average water consumption sometimes pushes the system to its limits. We'll jump over to emergency planning S160. So emergency planning is region-wide except for the 3 main municipalities. So S160 is the subservice for areas E and F. We have an A service, A101, that captures all of the emergency planning costs and distributes it to 7 different sub-regional costs. So relatively minor taxation increase this year. The main initiatives, continued implementation of the EDMA, Emergency Disaster Management Act. So this includes plans, risk assessments, continuity plans, multi-jurisdictional planning, working on bylaws, as well as expanding neighborhood assessment, emergency preparedness program, and Indigenous engagement as part of EDMA requirements. So continuing to increase emergency support services, upgrading the systems at the Emergency Operations Center, as well as the Fire Smart program. 911 communications, so this is just areas ENF. Nelson looks after its own. So this is seeing a 5% taxation increase, primarily driven by rising costs and declining external revenue. This service used to get a fair chunk of its funding from 911 levies on landlines, as the number of landlines goes down, revenue has gone way down. Local governments have been lobbying provincial and federal governments to add a levy to mobile phones, but have not yet been successful. So the expense increases are primarily driven to higher contracted services costs for 911 and fire dispatch, as well as there's some costs related to GIS services to continue integrating new Gen 911. And 4 initial capital projects planned to maintain regional dispatch infrastructure. This is mainly radio repeater antennas for emergency services in those areas that don't have good cell service. Jump over to rural fire protection, some region-wide initiatives, continued replacement of personal protective equipment for meet regulatory requirements, utilizing various grants for community emergency preparedness, and then continuing capital reserve contributions. So we'll start with BC Blewett S144, 7.5% increase in taxation this year. Auto extrication training, focus on fire officer development, and alignment of the chief's stipends. Balfour Harrop S141, 3% taxation increase, procurement of a replacement fire apparatus in progress, some training. And this service has the largest roster of firefighters in the region, as well as a high call volume. 2 more services, so North Shore 134, Area F, 2% taxation increase, Community Works grant funding, hall maintenance and upgrades, procurement of fire apparatus is in progress. So I believe there'll be a down payment this year and then delivery next year. Purchase of a wildland truck funded is planned, funded from reserves and a grant. And then Nelson contract, which is that part of Area E that receives its fire protection services from the City of Nelson Fire Department, seeing a 13.1% taxation increase. The previous funding formula had fallen behind inflation. That's why we're seeing a larger increase. And then the new formula is based on taxation equity, or the planned formula, taxation equity of City of Nelson property owners, adjusted for differences, as well as the new Nelson Fire Master Plan. The other items that are in this service that are driving up costs are part of that master plan is the addition of, I think, about 4 firefighters over the course of 3 years to that service. And looking a bit further down the road, there's some, if you've been following City Nelson budgets, some potential major capital expenditures, including a new ladder truck and potentially a new fire hall. Which, yes.
So the contract that is provided to Blewett would be based upon a limitation as to a maximum, I think, of 8 kilometers?
Depends, anywhere 8 to 13. So I'm not sure how far this one is, but 8, if I look at a map, 8 seems to make sense.
Because what I'm curious is, obviously we want to maintain the insurance coverage, and if we go beyond that, and the City of Nelson moves their fire hall in a location that's further away from Blewett, would that also necessitate us relooking at that line and perhaps moving that into the Blewett area or the Blewett Beasley Fire Department?
Potentially, yeah. As far as I know, they haven't settled on a site yet. But if it moves somewhere east on the east side of town, then yes, that could be stretched. So transit, a couple transit services impacting this area. 238 North Shore, some ongoing region-wide initiatives, including system-wide service level review and transit fare review by the BC Transit. So prior expenditures came in lower than anticipated. In the current version of the budget, the February 26th, it shows a 21% increase, which we reduced to 12% in the final budget draft, actually the one that came out today. And then a couple items increasing costs. There's a contribution to S239 to fund the number 10 bus, as well as increased costs from BC Transit. 239, this is a service for includes Nelson ENF, same sort of things, system-wide review, transit fare review, 41% taxation increase this year. A lot of that's driven by there was a large amount of reserves available to reduce taxation over the last few years, mainly as a result of COVID or pandemic funding by the provincial government to keep transit systems running. So those reserves have been used up. So now the costs are jumping to levels that don't include reserve funding. So that 41% increase is average, but as you can see, Area F seeing an 87% increase, E 87, F 29, and City of Nelson 42. And the reason those are all different, the other big project with the that was going on with transit over the last couple of years was a reapportionment exercise. So there are multiple transit services, especially in the West region, that cross over each other, or there was a lot of, it was really difficult to figure out, who was paying for what was fair, and if a service level adjustment was made, how it would impact taxation. The previous model didn't allow for that, so we went through quite a bit of a process to reapportion it, create new formulas with the help of a consultant. And now, so any reduction or increase in services will be borne by the taxpayers in those areas as much as possible that are directly impacted by that change in service. And so other good news items, health connections funding from IHA is increasing by 33% annually over the next 3 years. Okay, we'll jump over to some pie charts, which show a visual representation where taxation is going for a number of areas. And on the left-hand side, we show the tax bill for 2026 is $20.25 per $100,000 of home value. So if you live in a home worth $700,000, you multiply that number by 7, so just under $1,000 for the RDCK portion of City Nelson taxpayers. Most of that taxation bill goes towards the rec facilities, parks, and waste or resource recovery. Area E, Bluewood Fire. So now most of your tax bill, the greatest portion, goes to fire protection, and then followed by the rec center and refuse disposal, and then a bunch of smaller services. But as well, as you can see, your tax bill for $100,000 is quite a bit higher. So 267, $700,000 home multiplied by 7, so you're at just around $2,000. Similarly, Bluewood, just go back one. Okay. Oh, sorry, that was Nelson contract. So this is the area just west of Nelson. And so next is Bluewood Fire Protection. So this is for fire services areas where fire services provided by the Beasley Bluewood Fire Department. And again, you can see fire, rec, and refuse disposal making up greatest share of your tax bill. Balfour area, this is for an area that has fire protection from the Balfour Fire Department, but live outside the area that pays into the Nelson Rec facility. So taxation a bit lower, and two highest parts of your tax bill are the fire department and resource recovery, and then a few smaller parks and rec services. So area F, Beasley Fire Protection. This is headed towards the junction. So similar tax bill, again, fire protection, about 25% of the total tax bill. followed by the City Nelson, or the Nelson District Rec Facilities, refuse disposal, and now transit starts taking a little bit of a larger share. And then Area F, North Shore Fire Protection, similar to the last one, we've got fire, rec, waste disposal, and transit making up about 75% of the tax bill. So that is the end of the presentation. So does anybody either here or online have any questions or comments? Keith, I see you have your camera on. Do you want to say something? Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending this evening, and appreciate you listening in and taking part in this evening's presentation. So wishing everyone a good night and safe travels home. And we've got a hand up. Oh, Director Page, question?
There are just a few people clapped. We're just clapping. Thanks for the presentation you have and all the hard work staff has put in and the directors in bringing this number down from the initial projections. I know there's still a lot of hard work ahead going into future years, but I really appreciate the effort that's been put in to get taxation where it landed and the service we deliver.
Thank you, Director Page. Director Graham, you just.
Just wanted to echo Director Page's comments and just thank the staff for a job well done. And just really appreciate the presentation and the time, and thank you very much. And thank you to Josh Nank for attending in person for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, I will exit the meeting. Have